All right, welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. This is the first episode of 2022, and I'm joined today by Jimmy Minards. How are you today, sir?
I'm very well, thank you, Dee. You doing all right?
When was the last time somebody sang your name like that?
Mate, you are the first.
Yeah. Talking about sports before we come on there. They didn't sing your name in the stands when you were playing rugby, no?
No. Not in a nice way, if they were.
So where are you based, Jimmy?
So I'm based in a place called Mudgee in New South Wales, Australia. But I guess my business is really sort of mostly based in Sydney.
The Recruiter Startup Podcast, very popular in that area, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. In Mudgee or in Sydney?
Mudgee.
I'd be the only, I reckon. Right? What was that?
You live in the sticks, like.
Yeah, I do, but it's nice sticks. It's wine country, so it's not all bad.
Yeah, and the dream of remote working and all of that has kind of come true for you guys, hasn't it?
It has. I think it's a funny when you say the dream. It's there's definitely some fantastic aspects of it, but there's some challenges, and I think as it's almost careful what you wish for, because man, I am missing people. And I guess obviously the pandemic has obviously really sort of played into that, but yeah, I think as time goes by, we'll see how we go, and particularly with the business that I want to grow, whether the remote thing is the way to go. I know obviously you're very pro that, and that's it's working very well for you guys. But I guess the type of environment that we work in Australia and Sydney is that it's very relationship based and very face to face. When
I visualize you in your life there, I can't kind of think about, like, remember the TV show Flying Doctors, where they're like, this is you go for your client, having to get into these wee shaky planes to get like 5 hours flight into Sydney from the sticks.
Oh my God, mate, we're showing your age there, but no, it's nothing like that. It's I mean, there is an airport in Mudgee, and does fly to Sydney daily. I haven't done that yet. I've opted to do the drive and just stick on one of your podcasts, of course.
Holding on.
Have you ever been in a light plane before, though?
No.
It is a bit like that, mate. It's it's fun, but it's different.
So we've known each other for quite a while now. My business has changed a lot, and your life has changed a lot. So it's I thought it would be good to get you on here now, because I think you might have been one of the earlier people who joined the WhatsApp group, the Dinghy. How did all that come?
Yeah, quite interesting, right? So I guess I found I kind of, like, through a mutual connection actually on LinkedIn is how I came about and found you and reached out to you after listening to one of your podcasts. But I'd sort of started listening to podcasts one day after work about recruitment, because a bit of a background for me is that I've never been a recruiter before I started up my business a year ago, right? So I now service the industry that I worked in for a long time, but I've had this kind of like desire to do it for some time. I'd asked a few people over the years that sort of serviced our industry and thought about it, and it sort of never really just felt like the right time or comfortable. I actually set up my business, like registered beginning of 2019, but it wasn't until I think of July of 2020 that I listened to a couple of your podcasts through a lady who referred you, who had actually been on your podcast, and then reached out to you, said, "Hey, I've got this thingy." I'm like, "Okay, cool," because I was just trying to like be a bit of a sponge for recruitment, because it's not something that I had an idea of it, never been working in it, so I wanted to just understand it more. And yeah, mate, just sort of like you invited me, and it was just sort of like, I don't know how many people back then, but it was pretty good. It was still like a bit hit and miss, but then it was also through timing, mate, that I think you introduced the mastermind, and mate, it was just pure time. I think on a Saturday or something, I looked at you'd put it up, and I'm obviously how many hours ahead of you or behind you or whatever, and I was just lucky enough to sort of just go, "Hey, I'm interested."
Yeah, and that's so for us. It was interesting because we didn't have an actual course then. So I was like, okay, I need to get all this stuff that I've learned out of my head and into a format. So I was like, okay, 6 years, like first 6 to put up, we'll go through it all. And then 6 people did. And I think you're probably the only one without recruitment experience out of the group, right?
Yeah, I was, and it showed.
How did that feel?
Oh, mate, I must admit, the first couple of times we met up, and I've never really sort of, I guess, with Andy as well, because he did a couple, but I guess I've never really had much time with Andy. But I think it was the first or second one we had it. I just felt like Andy was going, "Who's this? This guy's just a waste of space." But it felt, I mean, I was excited, but I was nervous.
Yeah.
And just, mate, I guess, we've talked about it before, but just that feeling of a bit of imposter syndrome, I guess, and really just sort of a bit out of my depth.
Yeah, I probably had a bit of imposter syndrome, taking the sessions at the time. And my wife Charlotte, she's like, "You're dropping the ball in our own practice and you're coaching people." And I was like, "Look, trust me, I'm onto something here. You just need to let me follow through with this." And she was breaking my balls. I mean, it was. Then I said, "Why don't you come in and kind of just do a nice session on operations or virtual assistant, something like that?" She did it and she went, "This is amazing." And I was like, "Okay, right, great." So once I got her buy-in on it, I was like, "Great," because we recorded the sessions because I wanted to be able to go to marketing and get a format out of it. And then we structured and restructured. We're on Mastermind 11 now. So,
oh my gosh. And yeah, it's probably also a very different
it's complete
iteration to what it was.
Yeah, it's just a lot sharper. So I think we're a lot more so we've got the format down pretty good. Because we're like, okay, so what's really important to people? And then we kind of reshuffled the different orders of stuff. So people like more like scaling and building their team a little bit earlier. And people want to get into VAs straight away, and people they need their operations straight away. And then I was like, I'm not making people accountable enough. So I put in a real load of accountabilities in the first session. And then the next bit is all about the marketing and all of that once you get all of that done. So it's and every time, because I suppose when you've coached 11 groups of people, you're going to get some people in it who are better at topics than you are. That happens every time. And I'm cool about that, because you come in and you're better than me at reverse marketing or marketing on selling a retainer or some type of automation or whatever it is. I'll be like, brilliant, let's process document that, right? Now that goes in the course for next time, and that's allowed us to build it. So last week we got it, or 2 weeks ago, we had the guys from Peak Creative come down and we recorded it all in course format. Then now it'll be much more like a real educational platform rather than the wildness of Mastermind 1. So
but it's obviously, it's great to see. I mean, Mastermind 11, that's a fantastic feat, right? And I guess from an idea and it becoming what it is now is great, and it will continue to evolve by the sounds of it.
Natural evolution is that Charlotte's now doing much bigger business advisory. So anybody who's got over 15 heads billing up to 50, and they want somebody to come in and go fix my processes or my management or my learning and development or my TA.
Okay.
Do a program of work, and I kind of could see that as a natural evolution, but it's really taken her off on it. So no, it's been cool. But I remember early times in your business, this happens that you had your job and you had your recruitment company, and I wasn't sure which one was going to win the war at those early stages, because there were moments when it was you hadn't really fully committed to it.
No.
What was the bit in your early, because I'm sure there's going to be somebody listening, I don't have a lot, who doesn't have a lot of recruitment experience, who does have financial commitments, you have kids, you have a mortgage, you're trying to make this life change, you're kind of doing it, but as you know, you have to be all in to make the real money. How did you make that decision? What was
so I guess to step back, it's probably been many years where there has been a desire for me to really do my own business and it to be, to do it well. So that's always been a burning fire, and I've always been a really good ideas man. Application, shocking, right? Like you
Like
pull a
myself.
trigger and I just don't, I hit a hurdle and I would fall over, or I just freeze, or whatever it be. I guess when the mastermind started, and I was currently working, as you say, like I had a full-time job working within a large insurance company, and have been doing that, there's similar types of roles for donkeys. And I guess knowing that probably I would continue to do that, and it was I had that safety net ongoing. And we're in the mastermind, and I guess you talk about or reference the accountability. We were trying to do some of that in mastermind one. And one of the things I'd said was referencing that I was going to step away from my job and do this properly. And I guess in comparison, maybe at the time it was probably a bit outlandish. And having not even discussed that with my wife at the time, like she was definitely aware that there was something building. But the reality of me stepping away from, a decent salary and considering our financial commitments, we were actually we'd sold a house that we had run as part of a business in Mudgee, funnily enough, to fund our first home. And then I wanted to spend that money to start my own business. So in short, there was a lot building, some courage. And through that, literally that off the cuff comment I made was probably a bit of the tipping of the accountability. And then I think being around like-minded people really helped. So having that, talking to you guys every week for 12 weeks, just the guys in Mastermind One that I'm still in contact with, and just going, hey, I'm doing this or that. And, because I was so green, I didn't want to ask questions because I first felt I was just an absolute idiot. We're talking like 101 recruitment. I just didn't understand. I hadn't understood what I thought the concept was, but the application, no clue.
It's a really interesting one. And I know, thankfully, you've stayed on our ongoing advisory, and I've put you in a group with other people who have a lot of industry experience as opposed to a lot of recruitment experience.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to do is to start building out the detail of what that is. All the stuff that's obvious to me, but for you looking in at this brand new thing, I'm like, oh, our course is too high level for some.
Yeah. I think it's just there's probably, and this is where Charlotte will probably be very effective through just really trying to drill out that process, because it is basically a 101 or a basics of recruitment. And I think basically for me to really take that leap, it was, talking to other people and, really understanding it so that I could convince myself that I was effectively making what, loosely a soundly based decision, and thinking about the risk and whatnot. I mean, I had the money in the bank for a certain amount of time.
How much time? Give us some numbers.
So how much money or how much? So
whatever you're comfortable with.
Oh, I mean, listen, we had over 100 grand in the bank. Awesome. Okay, so that's So that was for going towards a house deposit.
Yeah.
But I didn't earn money for, oh my gosh, over 6 months. I left my job in December of 2020. I had my first placement fall through, I think, in February, March. And then I didn't get the next one that was in May and got paid the last day of the financial year in Australia, which is 13 grand. I think, I made 13 grand in that first 6 months. And there was month 5, I was
I remember you painting the fence. And
I was building fences. I was doing labouring.
You were like, Jimmy, get in on the ball. Stop painting the fence. But your head had gone, hadn't it?
Yeah. There was a good 4 weeks or so, and I was, I think, just the pressure. I probably haven't felt that weight on my shoulders ever, whereby I feel like, oh fuck, I fucked up here. My wife's backed me. I'm not doing what I should. I remember that conversation because Dave and the other guys from Mastermind just everyone just went quiet and started laughing. Just going, what the fuck? Sorry, what the hell are you doing? And
I remember we grabbed you on a one-on-one basis for a couple of times as well after that. And we were
yeah.
If you just to make these changes now, or it's back to the job. It was.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's just I know that obviously 100 grand sounds a lot of money, which it is, but that wasn't money that was supposed to be spent, or not a great deal of it. And I'd sort of sold something to my wife effectively that, we're really we'll be fine. Excuse me. And we weren't. It was just, we had to I think we sold a caravan which, we're probably going to sell at some point, but we're starting to like look at that from that. Anyway, it was just like, I guess, through nothing, like you go back to what you say, like when I was building fences or whatever, like you've just got this activity, like just like you've got to just, chip away. And I guess because I didn't know I wasn't confident whilst in what I was doing was the right thing at times. So I don't know whether what I was doing, like chipping away and working, was actually quality or not, and that's, I guess, bringing you guys on board and, having that accountability, but the support, like all the infrastructure you've got, my VA that started today, and just like reading through and going through that supported me and bringing that person on board. I didn't have you guys, it wouldn't have happened, basically.
What are the financial projections now? Just obviously we talked about the shed, and then you had an epiphany that you couldn't paint fences and you had to do some work. And
I had an epiphany, i.e. like I was, going to be divorced possibly. But I guess projections are looking pretty good. So if I look at the second half of last year, I mean, numbers wise, we're around the 180 grand Australian for the first 6 months. I guess I'm trying to probably by the end of the financial year, which is end of June here, is probably around the 400,000. We'll see, obviously, with the VA, it's, helping with some of the administration stuff and, some sourcing. I think ultimately I'm probably going to bring other recruiters into the business this year. So maybe the 400,000, whilst obviously, that's, turnover wise, it's, that's not money in my pocket by any means. But,
no, of course. So with that initial 50 that you invested, were you able to pay that back into the family trust?
Yes, yeah, I was. So, and that happened, in October.
Nice. And
so that was 5 months from feeling like rock bottom. 5 months, obviously a pretty short time, and that was a pretty amazing feeling. It's even making me feel like, give me the sweats right now. That's how.
Sorry, I'm sure.
How stressed it made me.
Like, but when did you replace your salary? Because that's a big milestone as well.
Oh, yeah. Probably November, I'm saying. I think I'd surpassed my salary. So, man, pretty incredible, right? Like a year in, the better part of.
It's good going for a year in, because so you've got your specialism, and you've got you're getting your processes, and you're learning on the job. Kind of stuff that me and you're working on now is, how do we free you up with a virtual assistant? How do we get that person doing a lot of your sourcing while you're sleeping? How can we charge this up? So, when you do when you bring in recruiters, are you thinking of bringing them in remotely, or are you thinking of bringing them in locally?
Well, it's probably in part remote, to be honest, because I think with some of the roles that we're getting through now, which is awesome, they're across Australia. So I've really got to start looking at some of those sort of other, centres like the Brisbane, the Melbourne, Perth. I would love to have someone with me in Sydney, to be honest, because I just, it'd just be nice to have someone to talk to.
What about your wee local outback village that you're in? Could you would you not like to be a local employer there? Would that not be something that
I mean, there is there's co-working spaces here, so it's not totally hillbilly, but I guess it's what's happened obviously through the pandemic is just that a lot of people sort of left Sydney or the capital cities and done these tree changes or sea changes. So you're finding a lot more professionals, within certain areas, and where I am is quite a significant, I guess, hub from a regional perspective. To have its own airport that flies in Sydney, that's kind of a big deal, for a country town, to be fair. Yeah, I guess they could. Part of it's been that since moving here, just sort of seeing that there's some opportunity here as well. And I guess I'll look at that. But if we go back to where I add value in my niche, it's, that the insurance within the claims management within insurance. I just think this place is probably screwing me out for a labour hire company, if I'm honest. But it's not my bag, mate. I wouldn't do it well, and it would just cost some money.
These are the things. People see opportunities and then they take their eye off the ball. It would make much more sense just to double down in this space that you're in. And if you max it out amazingly, which you won't, if you did, maybe you look at it maybe you take on an insurance client in New York or like, as long as you're in the same niche, it
Yeah.
it all works better. The marketing works better, the systems work better. It's when you start getting scattered. I'm a man for a new idea too. So I get it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of, I think with age and what experience, like I've definitely learned the hard way and sometimes, and I've run a couple of businesses of previous and been with a partnership, and one was okay, but one was a freaking shocker, and just like knowing where your strengths are. And mine is with the claims management, particularly from where I've been doing for like 15 years, like that's where I can add value, and I genuinely am interested in it. And
when do you think you'll feel like you're strong enough in your subject matter expertise to be able to do that? Or do you feel like maybe you just bring in an experienced people and use your previous management experience?
yeah, see, I don't think I'm ever going to feel comfortable enough to be able to sort of, I guess, train someone in recruitment. So I guess that part I'd really love an experienced recruiter. I think my ability to train someone up in what I know, I feel very comfortable, and that's something that I had to do for many years prior, to doing this. I think it just, that old adage of, if I'm the smartest person in the room, then we're in trouble basically. And I think just bringing in people that obviously add value and have different skill sets.
There's a couple of strands of thought here. One, you probably find better salespeople in the insurance industry that you could make into a recruiter.
Yeah, that's true.
Time in the saddle in recruitment beyond 2-3 years doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be better. The learning tends to slow down, and their output turns not as high. You usually find there's a reason that companies go for people with no experience or little experience, and then they build around it. Again, it depends what type of firm.
Yeah, you're exactly right though. And it's just like I've always found at times when you're hiring people with experience, there's some form of baggage, right? Or they're tired, or they're running away from something and not usually running to something. And I see a lot of my competitors, and obviously just lots of guys in recruitment in general, just doing, bringing new people in. Like there's a chap that was in our mastermind one, Mr. Luxem, and he's just bringing in a lot of, like, he's got obviously a bit of a balance, but he's bringing some, fresh blood, and he's really believes in obviously his process and trying to build that, those people up.
He came into even the mastermind though with a good background in. Firstly, he has commercial investors. Secondly, he is a billing manager. So like that, there's a good depth of knowledge and process that he can bring in, and he has the skill set to be able to go, okay, 4 rookies, right, here's how we do it, make it happen. There's not many who could do that, because they either are people who are just like too focused on their own billings and they don't have that, or they bill enough and they're just that. So he's got a nice blend. So I'm not surprised that he's done so.
And he's obviously seen huge growth. I think when you compare, obviously in the same group, but it's it's an interesting one. And I think like even the VA and the procrastination ineffectively probably it's taken 3 months to or so to get to this point, is just been like the fear of like, oh my gosh, like can I adequately train this person and give them direction in recruitment or in aspects of it. Again, going to that imposter syndrome, or just the fear or not feeling that I'm strong enough for.
I think you have us to help you on that, but the other bit,
that's right.
I think like a VA is a free swing at a hire. Like the cost differential that on a senior hire in Australia is 1/5 maybe.
I'd say so.
So you'll see the progression in that person, and you'll get better at what that looks like from daily, weekly way of work. So it does help you in that. And I think as soon as you set in rules for people when you're managing them, and you follow it, and you follow a system, there's not, I don't know, I wouldn't overcomplicate the amount. Like
that's very true. And I think a lot of people do that, right? I think they obviously maybe they overthink it, or they just I think we've talked about with VAs over time, it's just like you're just giving them structure and being very clear on expectations, and you give them good direction, and it should just like play itself out, right? Unless they're not the right person.
Yeah, look, you have 60 hours a week. if you're lucky, right? It's a lot of, no, me and you have young kids, we don't do work 60 hours a week, right? It's like I'm dragged everywhere, right? But if my business wasn't running in the background, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So you have to think like you have a podcast that's out there and you're able to like systemize that to build a community or build like or use it as part of your business development process, then that's a system that's working for you in the background. If you have a VA that is sourcing for you and coordinating for you and doing all of that and working your diary, then you also have a system that's going to save you 30 hours a week. So your time gets multiplied and maybe you start making a bit more money and you're like, okay, who's that marketing person that can do all my spec, as Americans call it, and get all my content going. And then, oh, what about my back office stuff? I've got a few temps. All right, okay, let's give that away. If you start holding on to the admin stuff that somebody else could do for like $8 an hour, like what are you worth an hour? That's why I always
that's exactly right. And again, that's probably been something I've been holding on to a lot too, just like, from, creating the profiles and, but I guess I've just,
admin as well.
But in part is obviously for me was to learn the process, and sort of, I guess, feel that I understood what what 360 recruitment is all about. But definitely getting to a point where I don't have the capacity, and I need to grow for the business to grow. Otherwise it will just stay like this and I'll get increasingly frustrated.
So it's accountability time before we wrap up. We touch base in a year's time. Where's your business going to be at?
So that's a good question. Not that one I really prepared for, but I think I probably want to triple my billings this year, which, is not probably crazy to a lot of people, but that's where I'd like to be. I guess that.
What does that mean for headcount?
So I think it actually only probably means maybe 2 to 3 VAs and possibly 1 or 2 recruiters, to be honest. I don't think that's like, I guess that, it's a tough one because the reality is that the first 3 to 6 months for any recruiter I bring on is obviously going to be a learning curve. And the reality is that, you've spoken about before, is that, usually one recruiter is doing well, one's neutral, and one's probably losing you money.
Yeah.
But depending, obviously, if I bring a couple at the same time, which might be better than stagnating it, I'm not sure. But
I think when we get to that point, we'll have a look at where your finances are, where your desk is at, and when you start going into like the ideal hire, we need to work out firstly like what is the profile of what we're after, and we're hiring to achieve the financial goals. We're not just hiring for the sake of it. So
that's right.
We'll come up with a score mechanism in terms of this is the criteria that works for Jimmy to be able to get to his goals. Then you start running the process, and it might be 2 people without experience who come from your industry, and then we have to look at, okay, well, if that's the case, what type of training do they need? What type of management structure do they need? Or it might be, you might find one person who's got a bit more billing management experience than you do, and you think, okay, that one person, then everybody else comes from industry. We need to work out what that looks like as part of a broader plan. I think to get to triple your billings with 2 VAs and 1 senior hire is possible, but then the VA, you might be able to get somebody who could be a revenue generator as a VA. So I think in the Philippines there's some amazing senior talent that can be transitioned in. But again, you have to decide, do you want the office locally? Do you want the person remotely? Because again, that's going to define the type of profile and management structure.
Yeah, that's right. And and I think it's something else that we have to talk through. And I think the idea of bringing people in from within industry experience, I guess, across different claims would be fantastic, right? Because that kind of obviously, that's, I guess, where I come from. And that's sort of, I guess, from the, that's what I love about the value proposition of Pryor and Hall. That we're from within industry, and that's how we add our value. So.
Yeah, it's the way to, I don't know, from a marketing branding perspective, it all makes sense. But then you have to have how do I get that marginal gains, recruitment mindset into that system.
Yeah.
If you're not the person who really like,
No, that's right. And
yeah,
it would need some sort of structured training, probably, to be honest, and not from me.
no, I know, but even me, I like to do the sales stuff, and I like to do a bit of one-on-one like player coach stuff, but I don't really like management as such. So like, I think that's probably like Charlotte has to come in and fill that gap, because
Yeah.
I'm off like barking and howling at the howling at the moon, like, you know. So.
Look there, a squirrel. Yeah. That's right.
All right. So 1 year from now, we're going to triple revenue. We are going to get a couple of VAs and a senior hire, but we have to work out what direction. This is all good stuff. I think that's us today, my friend.
Well, mate, well, thanks for having me, mate. I can't believe actually I've obviously you're scraping the barrel, but I'm very chuffed to have been on your on the podcast finally. It's awesome.
Well, no, it's just great to have been able to be around you, painting fences, to talking about making over 500,000 in a year's time. Like for me, that's a transformational bit. And it's as you were part of that first group that we did, it's a real pivotal moment in what we do as a business. And it was just nice to be able to tie it all together. So thanks for coming on.
No, mate, thanks for having me. And thanks for the support. You know, generally it's just I'm enjoying the ride, mate, and obviously continues, hopefully continues, obviously in the current trajectory.